Report shows over 121,000 tech workers has been laid off so far this year, and that is more layoffs than in 2020 and 2021 put together, according to NerdWallet. Companies who have laid off workers are Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, Stripe, Coinbase, and so much more. Possible causes of some of these layoffs could be accrued to financial constraints, the rising inflation, and overhiring. This development obviously makes you and I skeptical about the year ahead or what to expect in the coming years. The question is, will this layoff spree continue or not? And if yes, how do you make sure you are unaffected? This and more are some of the questions we'll be answering for you in this episode. Stick with us. You're listening to the TechNet Show, your weekly dose of the latest tech stories, analysis, interviews, and opportunities in the world of tech. If you're a techie or an enthusiast looking to stay up to date, this is the show for you. Be a part of the conversation and stay connected to our tech community on Telegram at TechNet Show. Hello, creative people. Welcome to the TechNet Show podcast. I am your host, Victoria Imeje, and as always, I have my co-host, Samo Basi here. So, Samo.
Hey, good evening, guys.
Hi. All right, great. Nice to be here. Now, Samo, some months ago, we had about 2 episodes where we talked about the diverse opportunities in tech and how everyone can switch to tech and get a sport. Now, the narrative is a bit different with the increasing mass layoff in the tech industry. So, what is your reaction to the big guns laying off a large percentage of their workforce in recent times?
Okay, I won't say I'm surprised. I'm not surprised. When there was a massive hiring a few months ago, and last year and a few months ago, and it didn't tally with the growth of most companies. What happened? Most companies actually got massive funding, and instead of focusing on building products, most of them actually went down. They overhired. Let me use that word. They overhired a lot of workers, and most of them became redundant. So when they were not making profits, they have to lay off to cut costs. So I'm actually not that surprised. I actually expected this, so I'm not surprised.
Okay, so
it's actually part of the healthy growth phase. Like if you actually want to grow, you need to increase, decrease like that in a successive way.
Okay, so in contrast to what you've said, right? I happened to read an interesting article on Stanford.edu, and the report actually says that, this was about Stanford Graduate School of Business professor. His name is Professor Jeffrey Pfeffer, and he happened to carry out a research in line with the mass layoffs in the tech industry. And according to their research, they believe that the stress that the layoff is causing is quite devastating, and it creates that devastating toll on behavioral and physical health and increases mortality and mobility substantially. And according to him, the simultaneous layoffs by several big players in the industry can be pinned on copycat behavior. Now, we say that, and these companies actually say that they are laying off because of overhiring and also because they're trying to cut costs, they're trying to manage their finance because, there's inflation.
Vicky, sorry for cutting you.
Yeah.
Sorry for this company don't need to say this. You and I know that they overhired. The highest fee was actually too much. It was too much.
No, when we say that these companies
would have expected this to happen.
Wait, when we say they're overhired, is it all the companies that are overhired? Like Lyft now? Because it's not all the big guns. If you say Meta overhired, I can understand. But what about Lyft? What about some of these other companies that you don't expect to actually say, okay, their problem is the fact that they're overhired, right? So there is just this belief that they are trying to make us see that, okay, it's because they're overhired. What I can actually relate with is the fact that, okay, there is inflation and these guys are battling with some financial constraints. Now, and here comes this professor throwing a different angle, throwing in a different point of view that, okay, it's not just because they're overhired and there is inflation, but because these companies are just being copycats, because there is now a trend that, okay, this company is laying off layoff. So they'll be like, okay,
Okay,
layoff. So what are your
Vicky.
thoughts about it? Because it's quite funny to me, really.
Okay, Vicky, let me tell you the two main causes of this, massive layoff. One is inflation. Economies all over the world actually going down. People actually losing money and the rest. Two is the overhiring that we just mentioned. These two truths can actually coexist.
Okay.
So one, the inflation, the global inflation that is actually ongoing now. Two, the overhiring. Okay, for the second one, for companies like Lyft that you just mentioned, it may not necessarily be overhiring. It may be the inflation. For a company that have been having, maybe for instance, a turnover of, let me say in dollars, a turnover of $100,000 every month, beginning to have a turnover of $5,000 every month, or maybe $10,000 every month, what do you expect them to do? They'll need to cut costs so that they can stay afloat.
Okay.
So it's not everyone that's actually, the narrative of hiring actually shoots for. And in second, I won't believe it's kind of a copycat. I would disagree. I beg to disagree with what the professor said. It's not
That's
really
fine.
a copycat because everybody's out there to, do what is actually based for his or her company. As a manager or as a CEO, a lot is actually on your sleeve. Investors are actually on your neck. So if you do not do the right thing, if you do not act right, no matter whose ox is gone, it won't scale. The health of the company first before any other thing. So if it's not the overhiring, it's the inflation that's causing. A lot of people are not making profits again like before.
Okay.
People's revenue is actually going down. The revenue that is generated by most companies actually going down. It's actually normal if they love some people so that they can, adjust and stay afloat.
Okay. So they staying afloat, but there is another contradictory statement he made, right, that I would like us to also look at. So in his own opinion, layoffs do not improve a company's performance. He stated that, okay, severance packages cost money and layoffs also increase unemployment insurance rates. And these cuts actually reduce workplace morale and productivity because the remaining employees may feel down and out and then they are skeptical, okay, am I going to be fired next and all of that. So productivity level is low, morale is low, and then the severance packages that cost money. So in his opinion, he feels there is a better option, a better solution than just cutting people off in mass the way it is happening and keeps happening. So what are your thoughts?
Let me put this on. It's not all companies that pay severance packages.
Okay. Yeah.
Like
true.
very few companies do that. Some companies, when you actually going, they may give you 1 month salary advance. Some may give you up to 2 months salary advance. So most companies do not pay that huge severance package that you think they do. They don't. You cannot fire 1,000 workers and maybe 1,000 workers and you're giving them, no, it's not possible. It will drain the finances of the company. Two, and then the issue of the downsizing or let me say the firing or layoff, affecting the morale of the workers. I think there's nothing anyone can do about it. People are bound to have, you are human beings, you have emotions. When you are faced with uncertainty, it will certainly affect productivity. But that's where the HR comes into play. I know the company that actually downsized, that was 6 months ago. They downsized 6 months ago. Now, after the downsizing, the HR called a company-wide meeting and said, okay, I know some of you are actually afraid of losing your job and the rest. Okay, this is what will happen. This is actually the last. We'll never do this again. So all of you should just be calm, stay calm, your job is safe and the rest. Actually, it's a lie, but it actually helped the ones that stay back to actually, relax and put in their best. I think when you look at it in another perspective, that the company, for instance, the company actually doing maybe massive layoff and you're not that productive in your tax. And that, okay, company actually lay off those that they have redundant tax or they are not that productive. It actually push you to be super productive, push you to put in more into the work, meaning that, okay, they actually lay me off any month now if I'm actually, my productivity is not that much. Even with this massive layoff, there are some people that they can never lose their job because they hold a vital stake in the company. Their job is actually crucial to the growth of the company. So, actually, I think I'm actually understanding Professor's point and your point. I'm trying to look at it in a brighter perspective.
Okay. Yeah.
And maybe it may actually help you to go into jobs that maybe you were actually HR, you were into HR and the human resource, and so you kind of, okay, this is actually too generic. And let me go for something specific, something that no matter what happens, no matter the season, I will never lose this job. It will help us to make better choices in the future. For instance, if someone was, let me say, you only knew one programming language and the rest, and the programming language you knew like about 50,000 people that actually know the same programming language, and maybe in the company you still have like 100 people in the company that can do what you're doing. It will push you to, okay, let me learn social, so let me try to see I can make myself too important for this company not to be sacked. So I think it has pro and cons. So like everything, they must always be pro and cons. But we cannot, overdwell on the bad side. Let's also look at it at the brighter side. No, these guys are not doing this because they actually hate human beings or anything. They do it for the growth of the company. If the company goes tomorrow, they'll still rehire people back. So that's just the thing. That's just my my own point of view.
Yeah, it's actually a valid point of view, and I quite agree with some of what you said. Now, the process of them rehiring talent is going to make the labor market quite competitive, because already some of these guys who have been laid off will be picked up by other companies, and then so when the so-called previous company starts looking to rehire, it's going to create a stricter mode of hiring process and demand, and so a lot of competition will be happening at that moment. But however, the most important focus of this particular episode is the fact that we're trying to help tech workers see how they can actually navigate this period, because yes, we shouted that there were lots of tech jobs out there, and now there's just this massive layoff roundabout, and it can be scary. So you might want to find out, like, okay, how can you actually boost your chances? How can you try to stay afloat and above the circumstances, not to be a victim? And if you are already a victim, what can you do? So these are some of the things we are looking at. And the first thing we would first solution we proffer is that you upskill. Okay, it's very important. Learn adaptive skills. Like in one of the episodes, we talked about being a generalist or a specialist, right? And one of the things we mentioned is, if you're a generalist, it means you have more than one skill. Okay, and that could be helpful. It was one of the advantages of being a generalist, that it would be helpful for you if you have multiple skills, so you can do more than one thing. So like, you just need to have skills that are future proof. Okay, so you're not just about one skill. One skill is good and okay, be an expert in that field, but you also need, companies are looking to have talent who can actually be an expert at the same time, can offer other skills that will help the company grow. So you need to upskill, develop your skill better than what it is, build on your soft skills, learn other skills, adaptive skills that can help you get quickly hired and that also make you an in-demand person. All right, so Samuel?
Like what you hear so far? Make sure not to miss any of our episodes by subscribing to us now and joining our community on Telegram at t.me/technoshow. Now, back to the show.
So as a tech worker, if you've actually been laid off, or if you're actually afraid of being laid off, I think, okay, let me start with people that have actually been laid off. First of all, you don't need to panic. You need to understand that this is life, it happens. So first of all, take a deep breath. You evaluate your life, you evaluate your career and the rest, and understand, take your time. Do not just run to, start applying for other companies. And I feel you might have had maybe some sizable, amount of saving or some way, maybe investment on the road some way. Try to limit your, risky investment. Try as much as possible to limit your risk exposure and the rest. So live within your means. This way you'll be able to have a clear mind of where you're going to. So when you sit down and you evaluate your life, okay, this is what I need to do. Going to, learning maybe adaptive skill or something, don't upskill. Give relevance in your field. You can use a couple of months to build this, or maybe try to build it, or learn a particular skill that you know that's actually so relevant in your field. Doing this, you're actually simultaneously applying for companies too, other companies too. So we're actually mentioning your finances, or maybe trying to limit your expenses and the rest. I think if you're balanced financially, you'll be able to make informed decisions. And before you know, the layoff can actually be a blessing in disguise.
Okay, the layoff can actually be a blessing in disguise. And if you have not been laid off yet, we pray you shouldn't. One of the things that you can do is ensure that you are building multiple stream of income. Like, it's important not to depend on just the current job that you have. That way you stay safe, so that in case your company decides to, reduce their workforce, you won't be among the affected ones. Okay, and even if you are, you'll be less worried about it. Now, one of the things that we said you could also do is building relevance. Relevance means that you have to build your profile, build your expertise, your portfolio to that point that you know that your company will not just, when they're thinking of laying off people, you're not going to be one of those that will be listed because of how important that you are and what you offer. And ensure that you are also active online, active on LinkedIn, putting what you are doing there, pushing out your personal brand out there. In a situation where you get laid off, which we don't pray you do, it's easy for recruiters to find you and quickly recommend, your network can quickly recommend you to another company. And the thing is, one of the key takeaway is this: you don't always have to focus on the big guys, because I think that's where the issue is. A lot of people want to work in Meta, want to work in Microsoft and all of that. So it creates a lot of pressure, and these are the guys that are laying off. So obviously there are other tech companies and even non-tech companies who may need your skills, and you can actually put in application for that. So to stay out of this current winter season, ensure that you are looking at other companies, other sectors like renewable energy sector, and also building skills in in-demand fields like artificial intelligence, machine learning, the healthcare sector, the financial services, and so on. And then, like someone also said, you have to stay optimistic and positive. No panic. There are still jobs out there. So the fact that Meta and the likes are laying off people in their thousands, and Google is about doing so too, that does not mean that there are no jobs in tech anymore. And just keep the hope alive, be positive, and apply some of these few safety tips, I will call them, to stay afloat this season, right? And we just hope there will be no recession in the tech sector soon, because the way things are going, there's a likelihood of a recession happening, but we hope not. And if that is the case, we need to future-proof ourselves by having multiple options to stay safe. All right, I think that's just a few of some of the points, some of the tips that we can share with you on this particular episode. If you have other ideas that you think would be helpful to other techies, why not drop them in our comment section, send us a message, and we will share in our next episode. Samuel, any final remark, anything you want to add?
Actually, you have said almost everything I need to say. So I think if we stick with that, we'll be fine eventually.
Right. Okay, you'll be fine. We'll all be fine. And the tech sector will be fine, hopefully. All right. Thanks for joining us on this particular episode.
Thanks for being a part of today's conversation on The Tech Nerds Show. Do follow us on social media at The Tech Nerds Show. Join our growing tech community on Telegram at Tech Nerds Show, so you'll never miss any updates. If you find our content valuable, would love you to drop us comments or likes, or you could share it with your friends too. Catch you next week.